Oh, alrighty then, I thought it'd be about time I uploaded another video, seeing it's been literally ages since I've done one. Especially as you can see, we are working back on the 501. So I thought I'd do a quick update video to show you where things are at in this. As you can tell, it's progressed just a little bit. So first things first, you can tell we got it painted. Finally, we did that ourselves and it took ages because the first lot we put down had moisture bubbles in there, so we had to rub it all back and do it again. But basically, it's just an acrylic paint job, just base colour, no clear coat. Actually, the last 2 or 3 coats had half clear, half base, just to give it a bit more gloss. But that's after a good wet rub and a good hand polish. It's still got to be finely polished with the machine, because your camera can't pick it up, but there are some scratches in it. But it's more than good enough for the kind of car and the kind of restoration we're going for. And the colour is like a blue tinge on British racing green, if that makes any sense. It's hard to pick it up in here because the fluorescent lights make the camera turn to shit. But what happened was, while we were painting this, we thought, oh, we'll just give the chassis a quick little once over with some more paint, just to make it look nice and glossy, because it got sand, it got scuffed and scratched and stuff in the bodywork process. So we did that, and I went to degrease the engine and found that the paint that we put on was bitumen based, and degreaser strips the paint back to bare metal. It takes off, thinners takes it off, metho, terps, petrol, you name it, it'll take the paint off. So had no other option but to strip the whole thing down again and get it sandblasted. So we got the chassis sandblasted, the front axle, the rear axle, all that kind of crap, which is what we should have done the first time, but at least it's been done properly now. And as you can see, we've also changed the colour of the motor, because that blue that I thought once looked good now look terrible. So we cleaned all that off and painted that again. We sandblasted the exhaust manifold and painted that in a grey exhaust paint. So it's proper paint. Beforehand we used this black enamel, which was stupid. We also painted that timing cover down there and polished that up. I've put like a different clamp on the water pump because we had a piece of hose there before and that looked crappy. Got the horn mounted, got all the wiring run. I laser cut this piece of aluminium here that goes underneath the carburetor, so that when the carby overfloods, if it ever does, it spits the fuel out the bottom, and so it'll catch this and just run off instead of running down the side of the crankcase into the sump and catching fire, which isn't ideal. And we're doing work on the interior now. I've bought an industrial sewing machine and I'm getting used to that. The clutch motor on it's extremely quick, but I've adjusted it and adapted the setup so it's a lot more, it's a lot less sensitive, put it that way, so it's a lot easier to use. And you can see the dashboard is in. I also had this dashboard laser cut out of some aluminium, and we're thinking it's still got to be folded. It's got a lip down here that has to be folded over, but we're thinking of just polishing that to like not a stupidly bright finish, but just a nice dull finish, if that makes sense. But I think it looks quite good against the colour of the body. I'm really happy with that. And you can see we've got all the floorboards done. We've got a little cutout there for your heels, so that when you're pressing the pedals, your heel can sort of dig down in there and it won't get in the way and hit the floor. Battery box is in, which you can see in there with an isolator switch, like a double isolator. You got this chap here and that red thing which plugs into there. Rear toolboxes are in. I can't remember what the hell you guys are seeing, so I thought I'd show you anyway. That's just a little storage compartment. We're going to line those with either carpet or felt. Haven't quite decided yet. And of course, well, the rear, which doesn't look much different. We've started making up the door panels and the side cards out of masonite, which is a reasonably waterproof sort of substance. If we use MDF, it would have just turned to cardboard and turned to crap once it got wet. So that's the reasoning behind that. And we're sort of planning on interior colour pretty similar to what the masonite is, like a tanny sort of colour. Of course, we're limited to selection from the vinyl stores. There's not many colours available. These are some of the swabs. That doesn't really show you much, but whatever. But we're basically going to do that. We're going to have pleats running down here, and this will just be all flat vinyl with a few screws on the side to hold it all in. And we're actually making up spaces here to go down the sides, because if you can remember, we got those big steel brackets that go there. And so I've made up these spaces to be glued onto the MDF panels, so that when it bolts up, it's all nice and flush and your upholstery doesn't have to be pulled around the metal brackets there. So that is pretty well where we're up to. I've got to actually bite the bullet and buy some upholstery, some vinyl, sorry, and some foam, and start sewing this up. But I've been practicing with some scraps of vinyl that I've got. It's actually coming on reasonably well. It's not actually as difficult as I thought it would be. The hardest part is getting the patterns right so the covers fit nice and tight. We've got a giant stash of old seat springs out the outside that we've got to pull apart, and we've got to make up our own seats to suit. But I think we'll do that once we get the sides all done, so we know how wide to make the seats at the back. And there's just no excuse. I don't feel like doing the front seats yet, really, which is that panel there. So yeah, as you can see, it's coming along quite nicely. Can't wait to get this thing on the road. And we've got the running boards all made up as well here, which are all painted, ready to go on. And we've got the rubber for them. That was a loud bang. Rubber, big roll of rubber is down there, and some aluminium strips are up there with the guards. But the running boards can't go on until the guards are on, and the guards can't go on until they're painted. And much like the doors. And of course, it's the middle of winter at the moment in Australia, so it's freezing cold. Well, relatively, not compared to what America and all that kind of crap get. But it's about 5 or so degrees at the moment, Celsius. So it's too cold to paint. So we're just doing all the other things in the meantime before we can paint again. So that's where that's at. And if you're wondering why I haven't done much work on this lately, follow me. Out here is our new collection of cars, which is just growing exponentially. So if the camera decides to focus on that light, there we go. That's the old 130 that I have. You guys have seen that before. This is a new acquisition, which was my grandfather's car. It's a 1948 Oldsmobile, bodied by Holden. It was the last model Holden bodied before they decided to bring out the FX, which was their first car. You can see here he restored this about 20 or 30 years ago and did a fantastic job. I'll get my torch on my phone. And I'll bring you inside. As you can see there. So it's a beautiful car, it drives really nice. There's a lot of slop in the steering wheel. That's all slop. Most of that's in the steering box, so I've got to pull that out and make a new bush for that at some stage. But, that's work. That's actually painted in nitrocellulose paint, which is what they used back in the day. Where's that bloody cover? There it is. There we go. It was really hard to match the paint on this, and you can't put acrylic or 2-pack over this. And you can't get nitrocellulose paint anymore at all. So if we've got to paint that, that's going to be an absolute nightmare. But anyway, this is the main reason why I haven't been getting much done on the 501 lately. It's a 1978 Fiat 124 Spider, which I bought cheap and not running, but it was in really good nick. The paintwork, I haven't touched the paintwork, I've just polished it, and that's about it. Didn't have these wheels on it. It has some Simmons, which were 4x100, not 4x98 stud pattern, so they didn't really fit on there too well. And had an old soft top that was vinyl, so I got one from the States and put it on, which is canvas, and it looks a lot nicer. But it's a hell of a fun car. You can see it's been de-bumpered, had the big black American bumpers, they've been taken off. And I've got my 14x6 Performance Challengers on there now with a nice chrome exhaust tip, bro. And if it was open, I'd pop the hood, but I can't because I've locked it. Good on you, Brody. But basically, when I bought it, I just took the motor out, took the gearbox out, stripped all the interior out, and rebuilt the lot. The motor internals were fine, but I just did a cosmetic overhaul. So all the gaskets, all the seals, that kind of thing. Painted the block, polished the cam covers, and just made sure that everything was working fine. So the electric system went over that. Had to rewire a fair chunk of the interior because, of course, these were left-hand drive, and mine is now right. I'm trying to get a decent shot of the interior, but I just can't. But yeah, I've got to cover the seats still because they're blue velour as we speak, and I've got the base inside playing with it, and the door cards, they're like a sport material, which is absolutely revolting. But yeah, there you go. So that is my other toy, and that is why I've had no time to work on the other 501, which I really should have finished before I bought this, but I couldn't resist. But I think it just looks absolutely sexy. Good looking car. Anyway, that is about that for now. I shall keep making progress on this and update you accordingly. Thanks for watching.